Now I'm going to show you how you can set up your routes and your controller logic into separate files and folders so that all of this clutter that you have is gone. Okay, because this is too much. So for that, let's create two folders. One I'm going to call routes and one is going to be for our controllers. And what we're going to do here is in our routes we're going to add a file called route.js. Actually, you know what, let's make it routes.js, and we're going to save this. And right now we're going to set it up a little bit, but we need to make it work with our controllers, so we're going to go to the controllers afterwards and set that up first and then come back to the routes.js folder. For now I'm just going to set up the routes logic. So for that you need to create const routes is equal to express dot routes r with a capital. Okay, and this is a function. And before this we actually need to set up const express is equal to require express. Okay, so this has a method called this. Okay, if you do this you'll see here router. Oh, it's route. I said routes, I meant router. Okay, and you just export this now. Module dot exports equal to routes, or actually you should name this router because this is a router. So this is express, we need that, and we're using the router and we're just exporting that. Okay, and what this is doing is router, right? You have this now. So if I do dot, you will see that we have the same methods that are get, post, and also delete, and delete and put and other methods like that. Okay, but right now we are not gonna do anything with this, and the reason for that is we need to go to our controllers. And first I'll create the file that we need. Since we were imagining we were doing posts, so I'm gonna say posts dot controller .js, and you can name this whatever you want. I've just named this post.controller.js so that I remember that it's a post file specifically for controllers, and any controller logic that I have will just be in this, and you'll understand what I mean by controllers and stuff like that when I get into this and separate the logic. So we have this file, right? And now we have a controller file and we've set up our routes.js. And now I'm gonna just go, and if you've been following along, you know what I've made here. This is for getting the data from the database. This is for sending data to the database, updating the data and deleting the data. So right now I'm just going to separate this logic. So how is this going to be separated into this and into this, right? Well, what's going to happen here is, let me just copy this and put it in both of these so that I can take out the parts that are not necessary in this and then show you the final result here. Okay, so right now we have this, right? And we are going to replace app with this. Okay, so it's router.get now, and then you put in the route right now, and then when you have this logic, right, you're just going to remove this part. Okay, you do not need this anymore, and this part is actually going to be here. Okay, this is going to be here, and I'm just gonna say const post get. I'm just naming this something simple. You can name this whatever you want. And here I'm just going to do module dot exports, and then is equal to, and I'm going to use this right now. And if you're wondering why I'm using this instead of putting this here, it's because that this is not going to be the only one we put in here. We're going to have one for sending data to the database, one for updating the data, one for deleting the data. So how you do that is you put this in here. That's it. Okay, and then in this, what you do is do post, and then you just go to this, and it's added into this routes file now. And instead of doing this, what's happening is we're doing this. And the reason for this is that we are going to be adding multiples, and to do that you need to add the curly brackets, and then you can add as many as you want. For example, I'm just going to quickly do another one for all of you, and we don't need this anymore, so I'm just going to remove this one, and I'm quickly going to do this one as well. Cut and paste this in, add router to this, and just cut this part out, add this here, add const is equal to, and make this post create. I'm going to call it create because we're going to be creating something in our database. So I'm just going to name it this, and then you just do this. It's that simple. And then if I want to add this into my routes, I'm going into the controller where all of my controllers for my posts are. So I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to add this here, and that's it. So I've set up the controller, I've set up the route, but how do we get this in this, right? So that's really simple. All you do is do app.use and then do router. And the reason we're using router is because we named it router here. We're exporting it as router. So we've added this, and I've imported this in because we were shown this, so it automatically linked to that. Okay, so we've imported the routes in right now, and I'm going to quickly just add these two as well, but I'm going to skip over this because I want you to do it yourself. Okay, I've added the other two into our controller and our routes, and now I'm just going to copy this. Okay, I am just going to cut and I'm going to paste this in. And the reason I'm only doing this is because I want to show you that our routes are working, but we will be putting all of this logic separately in another folder called models, and I'm going to show you that later. But right now I'm just gonna actually, let me just add in the mongoose as well here because we don't want to mess anything up. Okay, and now I'm just gonna save everything. It's working. Okay, now I'm just going to make a simple request, a get request, and this is the only thing we have in our database. So if our routers are set up properly, you will see that this will work. So yeah, I'm getting the data from the database right now, and this is the get request, which is basically we're going to our router, it's going into this, it's going to this URL, which is the get request, and it's making the request to this, and It's getting the information from our database, which is linked to our schema and everything else, and it's just showing us that. So this is how you set up your controllers and your routes. So next I'm going to move on to the models so that we can separate all of this logic into a different folder. Like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.